It's Three Guys in Three Cities, and I just want to say this up front. Welcome to the podcast. Good to have you back. First of all, I'm a little crabby because I just came back from a tuxedo fitting, and let's just say last year's sizes not applicable. COVID. I asked for the COVID special, jumbo, supersize me. But let's just jump right into this right now. We've got to clean some stuff up before we get to what we call content. In the last, after the last episode, Andy and I had a long conversation, as did Josh and I, talking behind Andy's back about the conversation that Andy and I had. It seems like Andy feels like we've got to do a little more preparation on the podcast. He feels like we've got to go back and listen to it and analyze it, think it through, turn it into a bit of a science project. Andy, what was your idea again?
Well, first of all, it wasn't preparation. It was more, review after the fact. And, to make sure that the content that we are, developing for our fan base is that it's compelling and that they want to continue to listen. But, I thought the first thing I thought was we should all have the same microphones because Josh in particular last week I thought sounded like ass.
Well, I don't want to be disrespectful to Josh, but he did sound like dog biscuit material. And he's got the same microphone I do, so I don't know why I sounded so, and maybe it's just because of my broadcasting background, but I don't know why. Josh is the technically smart guy on the crew, but he's the one that sounds horrible.
I realize that people may think that I'm the person who needs my memory jogged from the trip to Seattle where I ended up in the emergency room, but it may be you, Mr. Fee, because I went to Seattle to help you with your microphone that was not working, and when I left Seattle, my microphone was plugged into your laptop. I came home and bought a new one.
So obviously the newer one's not working. So we've got to do something about that. And again, I mean, I bought all your drinks when you were here, so giving me the microphone as a gift I thought was a kind gesture. So
look, that's why I didn't say anything about it. I just want to make sure that we're reporting the correct facts to our listener.
Hey, you know what? I'm not reporting anything. I'm just having an authentic conversation that I don't feel needs to be reviewed. We just have to keep it real. That was the one commitment we said. I just keep it real. We're three guys in three cities. I'm in Seattle. Josh is in Cleveland. Andy's in Grand Rapids. We're just guys living life. Let's make it sound as natural as possible, except for the part where maybe we sound like we made too many mistakes, and then Josh can edit it so we sound better than we are. The end. But we've had some technical stuff. But as far as the content, I think it's been just on point.
I mean, that's true. This is our 31st show. I think maybe all 30 of them actually made it to air, maybe only 28 or 29. I'm not 100% sure. And Alan, to your point, you're absolutely correct. At least 8 of them are great.
And great if at some point we edit them down in case people go too deep into the library. We could clean them up maybe just a little bit more. But I'm afraid to go back. There are actors. There are great actors. Who's the guy that played Lincoln? That guy. He doesn't watch his own movies.
Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah, is it Damian Lewis? Is he the guy? I thought there was a third.
Lewis.
What?
I said Daniel Day-Lewis, not Damien.
Oh, that's right.
Damien
I'm sorry.
was a
Yes,
Backstreet Boy, I think.
Okay, right. Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, he doesn't, because you know what? He just gets it. He nails it and he moves on. He doesn't want to reflect and overthink it. I don't want to come into this podcast thinking too much. I want to come in and just go, hey, we're just three guys in three cities. Let's talk about what's on our mind.
I don't think anyone would ever accuse you of coming into this podcast thinking too much.
Thank you. All right, Josh, you were going to say something?
No, I was going to make the same joke Andy did. Probably a little better, but I mean...
See, and
Josh was doing it appropriately by saying, hey, I have something to say by holding my fingers up. I just jumped in on it.
See, and this is...
stomped on it.
You know what? I think you just played right into my trap, because here's the thing. So we're going to go back and listen to this, and we're going to realize that maybe Andy shouldn't tell jokes because Josh has better timing. And now we've just created a moment where we've got to edit it. It's gonna mess with your self-confidence, Andy, and I know that you've got enough problems because, people don't love all the music you produce, and now this. And so I think that going back and dwelling is going to be a problem for you.
I'm going to edit that joke. I'm going to give it to Andy, and it's going to be a banger when I'm done with it, just to make you wrong.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so I'm glad we worked that out. So what's the vote? We can vote on this if you want. I mean, are we going to go back and collectively review the show and spend a couple of minutes kind of reviewing the last episode, or what are we going to do?
I'd like to start off by saying a small review at the end of the show is kind of a good idea. It gives me a chance to take some notes, and I'm drinking Christmas ale. It's now past Halloween. I'm into Christmas ale season, so if I have a few of those during the show, I'm going to need all of the review possible. To
the podcast listener who is not from Cleveland, Ohio, the drink in which he speaks of, the 12 Dogs of Christmas Ale, that's Great Lakes, right? It's Thirsty Dog.
Yep,
that's Thirsty Dog,
right?
And they have a Christmas ale, and that is a liquid love. That is nectar of the Christmas gods. The problem is, you know how people have problems at the company Christmas party? Clevelanders, this is what causes those problems. And so he's going to be sauced up, Andy. When we go about 22 minutes deep into this podcast, he's going to be loopy. He's going to make more errors than normal, and I'm guessing he's going to drop maybe 2 or 3 of those on us, and by the end of it, it's going to be, I love you guys. You watch.
No, I'm not going to say that.
Well, it'll happen. You'll be sloppy. So we've cleaned up the business there. Is that right?
Business, is this a board meeting? Do I need to make a motion? Do we need a second?
I'm just saying. I just want to review, and I'd like to also remind you, we're picking an MVP at the end of the podcast, which. Again, a little pressure on this crew because last week everybody got a little surly, and Josh is drinking tonight. So just want to say up front, we're picking an MVP, so mentally keep score. All right?
And I'm feeling a little salty myself. I'm going to warn you.
Yeah.
I could come out swinging tonight.
And again, after my tux fitting, I'm feeling like I've had way too many of those Christmas ales, and I've been eating like the holidays all year. That wasn't good. When they start saying things like we've got to call another store so we can, get another thing and maybe sew 2 of them together, that's, you got a problem. So, I'm not feeling very good. I'll be honest. I came into this real crabby. I wanted to cancel, but here we are. So, full disclosure, Josh is drinking. I'm angry, and Andy's got issues. So. By the way, if you're listening to the podcast, you can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're 3 Guys in 3 Cities. Andy, can you go ahead and remind listeners how they find us?
We're 3 Guys in 3 Cities on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah.
Okay. That ought to get some hits. Right there, we got it. Right? That's going to get some.
I got to get a new melody. I got to come up with a new melody.
That's going to get some hits and some reposts and some likes. It's going to be great. All right, let's get going here. This is the Boo to You episode. A couple things. First of all, we had Halloween, and if you follow us on Instagram, you can see Andy. Andy, you were dressed as, I couldn't tell if you were Princess Leia, Mrs. Doubtfire. Who were you for Halloween there on our Instagram page?
That was Princess Leia, and that was 4 years ago.
Oh, it
that was when my daughter. Yeah, I reposted it on Halloween because it came up as a memory. See, I get Facebook. I couldn't repost it on Instagram because I'm still confused by it. But it was 4 years ago, and I was Princess Leia. At least I had the wig for Princess Leia. And,
okay, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
You need to say things like throwback, #throwback, or if it's a Thursday, you go hashtag. TBT. As a very close friend of yours, at least at some point, I feel like I kind of got duped because I was on your Facebook page. I went, "Oh my gosh, look at how adorable the kid is!" And I'm not sure, is he Velma from? Were you one of the Flintstones? I couldn't tell.
Wait, Andy, put a pin in that. You need to answer the Flintstone question. But when you reposted that picture, did you save it and post it again and make it seem new, or did you use the tools that are already there?
Yeah, so Alan, I don't know if you're familiar with Facebook, but they do these thing called memories, and they automatically populate. Yeah. And then I said, if you would have read my text, because you can actually put a text in Facebook that's more than just like some scripted gibberish that nobody else will get.
Right.
And you got to get a decoder out to figure it out. But with Facebook, you could actually say, and I said, "Wow, time flies, Emily." And I referenced my wife, Emily, because, we made that child together.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look, Alan, I think we've all figured out is the Instagram guy. Like, he's very valuable as our Instagram dude, but you don't really have to read on Instagram. Like, it's not a skill that you need. So I wouldn't focus too much on words for Alan.
The Instagram has its own language.
It does.
And if I wanted to look up somebody on Instagram, I'd have to know what their handle is, and it's some crazy, boujou on Instagram, and I don't know. I can't look them up by their name. It just doesn't make sense. It's like taking the alphabet and mixing it all up and saying, it's like making up your own language.
Right. All right. Well, either way, it's an old picture, so, if you want to scroll past it, it's fine because it's really not applicable. I was trying to be topical and timely, like, we're on the cutting edge. But, no, hey, it's 4 years ago. That's fine. So, Josh, what did you do with the kids for Halloween? Did you dress up as a dad, or what'd you do?
Yeah, man. So a couple of weeks ago, we camped and did trick-or-treating, so that was very cool. So, like, when we do the camping trick-or-treat, it takes a lot of the pressure off for us to have to, like, dress up when it's cold and rainy and windy and all that stuff. We did decide to go to a friend's Halloween party, and it was a costumes are suggested party. So, like, the girls wore their costumes, and my wife and I were like, well, what can we dress up as that's, like, incredibly easy and lazy, but still a costume enough that the girls don't think that we're totally lame? Like, joke's on us. They think we're lame anyway. So we went as Waldo and Wenda, which I thought would be, like, at least easy and funny. It's just a shirt. So I went to the store to buy a Waldo shirt, and all I could find was the small, medium Waldo costume. And I went there with my 7-year-old Addie, and I was like, "Oh, Addie, like we got to ask somebody." And she found somebody, and we asked them, and they didn't have bigger ones in the back. And I'm like, "This is not going to fit me. Like I'm like a fat dude." And so I took the thing out, and I held the shirt up to me, and the shirt, I shit you not, was a foot wider on each side of my body. And it's the small and medium. And I held it up in front of me, and I'm like, Addie, like, what? I think that I can wear this. And she's like, that looks like it's way big enough for you. And I'm like, perfect, I'm going to buy it. So, like, $40 later, I'm at home, and before we're supposed to leave for this party, I go to put this thing on me. And I don't know anything about sewing. So, like, I don't know what kind of weird pattern, whatever Chinese or Japanese factory did this. But it was like 2D. It was a foot wider than my body on each side, and I put it on and could barely move my arms. It was tight. And then, of course, I tricked myself into thinking I'd be able to wear it all night. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just walk around like this all night. It'll be fine. And we get to the party, and the first thing I do is drink 2, like, real strong beers. And I'm like, oh, my God, there's a lot of air in those beers. This shirt is so tight. I'm in the bathroom. I took it off. I'm trying to, like, stretch it out with my elbows. It was just brutal. Like, I just wore the super skin-tight suit all night while all the kids had fun and made fun of me.
2 words, Mick Ultra. But
it's too late now.
If I can sidebar, because I'm now just being reminded of something you did on Facebook.
Oh, no.
You have a 7-year-old. And,
I
do. You got into a bit of a spelling argument on how the word gnome is spelled.
Well, look, I don't know if it's necessarily an argument, right? So there's like a couple of parts to this, but she's making a gnome for school or something, which is fantastic. So if by some weird chance her teacher's like, oh, I'm going to look up the blah, 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 and you're doing a great job. But like, so they're making a gnome, and I was like, hey, what's your gnome like? And she talked to me about it, and she told me about it. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm having a real, actual quality conversation with my child. It happens like once every 2 months. And I was like, do you know what gnome starts with? And she's like, an M, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, no way, it's a G. It's totally a G. And she didn't believe me. And I'm like, come here, look, I'll show you. And I grabbed my phone, and I type gnome into Google. That's it. Just gnome. I opened up Chrome. I went to Google. I typed gnome, and I hit enter, and I'm like, come look at this. I hit no other buttons. All you see on my screen is a picture of a gnome holding a sign that says "Go away," flipping a giant bird
right in front of his 7-year-old.
And I was like, oh my God.
You
Scroll.
You have to post that. Can you just screenshot that and either post it on our Insta or I'll send it to me and I'll post it as a post on our page because that's hilarious.
Dude, I totally will. And you know what's the funniest part about that is Kelly obviously saw it like that night we were talking about it and kind of laughing about the flip the bird gnome. And I was like, I swear to God, like I didn't do anything. I'm like, type in gnome and see what you get. And she typed in gnome into her phone. Nope. No good old wholesome gnomes. And I was like, no way. That cannot be just like pointed to me because I'm a terrible person.
You are. Maybe it's your Google searches versus her Google searches.
100%.
Yeah, you're lucky that gnome wasn't doing something else.
Seriously, here's what I need everybody to do.
Hiding the G.
I need everybody to just type gnome into their Google search bar and take a screenshot of the first stuff that comes up. Nothing else, nothing weird, nothing special. Just type gnome, see what comes up, take a screenshot, and send it to 3 Guys 3 Cities. It's just at 3 Guys 3 Cities with the number 3, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, whatever. And because I gotta see it because it's totally based. It's totally targeted because her stuff was totally normal. My stuff was complete flipping the bird. Look at that, Andy. Do you have a flipping the bird one?
I got a flip in the bird.
yeah,
one. It's got a little
But
sign
see,
that says go away.
your first one is different than my first one. Like my first one was flipping the bird one. Your first one still looks kind of wholesome.
I'm over here going, does gnome start with an N?
No, it starts with a G, asshole. That's how this whole story started.
Come on, I'm trying to play into your hand. Oh, I get the. You got it as the second one, Andy. I got it as. I got the go away guy too. See?
Yeah, that's just us. That's totally just us. That's not for everybody.
Maybe we should just go away.
Have your wives do it.
Yeah, and say, hey, honey, Google gnome, and then do whatever the gnome says, okay?
My takeaway from this whole story, Josh, is it's nice to see that your wife is actually laughing at something, because I haven't heard her laugh about something since you came back home from Seattle and still recovering hungover. So
she must have been mad I left the microphone. That's what it is.
Right? That's exactly what it is. So anyway, so it was a great Halloween, and we had a big staff meeting at work. And again, what happens after Halloween, there are the people that are pretending to eat well, so they just bring a big pile of candy and just throw it down there. Next thing you know, you're like 17 pieces of small Snickers and 3 Musketeer bars into this meeting, trying to look like you're not the guy eating it. But it's like so good with coffee, and it's like, oh, Butterfinger and coffee goes well. But I'm just, and you're trying not to make any sound. It's like I just want a little kind of. I just want to get the goddamn Snickers. Oh, there's Baby Ruth. Yeah, that was me during the entire meeting. And, of course, some of the people were on Zoom. And so people are screenshotting. They can see me reaching for candy. Yeah, that was fun. But, so, Ed, do you eat your kids' candy? Do they have stuff that they don't like? Or do you have any rules because you took them around trick-or-treating, so there's payment? How does that work?
Dude, I just eat whatever I want out of their bags when it happens. I try not to eat a ton of candy. A lot of it ends up at work. Like, I take it to the break room, put it in the candy jar. Everybody eats it. I was super bummed out because I bought a bunch of really good candy to hand out to trick-or-treaters this year because we didn't end up going trick-or-treating like on trick-or-treat night. And, like, every year there's hardly anybody in our neighborhood because it was a whole big neighborhood of, like, older folks. And the neighborhood is flipping, which is awesome for my kids because now there's a lot of little kids in the neighborhood. But, boy, is a whole lot less awesome for me because I, like, had this big bowl of candy and I'm like, hey, I'm going to spend, like, 2 weeks eating Snickers and Milky Ways. Like, I bought all the good candy. And it's gone. I ran out before trick-or-treating ended. I had nothing to take to work and put in the candy jar.
See, that's the part I miss about living in suburbia because we're in a condo in downtown Seattle, and, you know, the people asking for stuff are out on the streets. You know, but they're not. They can't actually come into the condo to do that, and I kind of miss out on that a little bit, but... You know, what are you going to do?
And they don't want your damn candy.
Right? They don't want, give me your wallet. There's no trick-or-treating here. Give me your wallet. But, yeah. So, and Andy, everything...
I make my kids pay a candy tax. They pay a candy tax.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, I mean, you've got 14 kids, so that's kind of... That's got to be a lot of candy coming through.
I got a 17-year-old who, you know, if he has any self-respect, did not go trick-or-treating. I have a 15-year-old that dressed up as Olaf because her younger sister 4-year-old was dressed as Elsa, and she's like, I'm going to dress up with Nora to make her feel more comfortable, and then I'll go with her and take her out. She had this whole thing planned, and then my 4-year-old's like, I don't want to go. She gets performance anxiety, it's she just gets all freaked out, and I'm like, all right, you don't have to go. And then my 15-year-old's like, she's not going. What do I do? Don't go. She's like, no, I'm going to go.
It's kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious where she gets the performance anxiety from. Well, not mom. I don't know.
Do I still sound a little soft to you, Al?
A little bit. That was 3 episodes ago. Can you just let the whole soft thing go? I mean, come on. 3 episodes ago. People have already moved on.
Hey, by the way, I just sent you and Josh. I apologize when Josh was telling the story. I was trying to forward it, and it kept playing. But this is a current Halloween video of my kids with some neighbor kids, my daughter, Nora, dancing in our van. So every Halloween, I trick out our van, and I put Halloween lights in it all the way around, and I call it the Mystery Machine, and I crank like Thriller and Monster Mash and whatever, and we drive through the neighborhood with it as a, keeps the kids warm or whatever. And my 4-year-old and her best friend Henrietta and her little brother Arthur, who's like 2, they were jamming out to Monster Mash in the van, like party time. And so if you want to post that, that would be current here. It would be the little girl I was holding, that 1-year-old, how close we are, Alan. My kid's now 4 years old,
right?
Not a 1-year-old anymore,
right?
So anyways, I just thought I would give you more content to post on the ground.
Appreciate that. You guys had great family times. You guys had great family times because you have young kids, but I have a 22-year-old daughter, soon to be 23, which is crazy. She's getting married in May in Cleveland. But here's the thing. As empty nesters, we thought, let's do something really scary this year. You know what we did? We went to watch the Jacksonville Jaguars play. Now, Andy, I know you don't get that sports joke because you're not a sports guy, but Jacksonville's horrific this year, and they've got all kinds of things happening. And so we watched the Seahawks because we're here in Seattle, and they were hosting Jacksonville. Seattle has all their star players. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of Russell Wilson. His finger fell off in one of the recent games, so he wasn't playing. Another guy named Chris Carson, who's like a star running back, he's hurt. We still hammered them. I don't even remember what the final score was. They're still adding it up. Something like 31-7, something like that. But yeah, that's what we did for that. And then we sat home on Halloween night, just wondering what people are really doing for Halloween. Didn't even feel like a holiday, which kind of bummed me out because even though I'm in theory a grown man, I like to kind of dress for Halloween. And I don't have any fun picks this year.
You didn't dress up at all?
No. Of course, then again, people always go like, "Hey, what are you trying to be there? You look like John Madden." So, no. Are you trying to be John Candy? I mean, no, that's just me. Just me. I don't fit into the tux I just tried to get fitted for. I'm hosting 4 events. 4 events. So I had to I had to actually rent a tux today for 4 consecutive Sundays because they're Sunday night events. And I'm over here thinking, you know what I should do? I should order smaller sizes each week and just start just do a liquid diet until then and see if I can actually make a dent in this thing. But, I mean, I basically, as a Seattleite, I may as well have just gone to REI and bought a tent that was black and white. But anyway, that's enough of that.
Honestly, I think you should do the other thing. I think you should take one part of that tux and for each week make it bigger. So, if it's a bow tie tux, by the 4th week, I need the bow tie to be larger than your head. Or if it's a cummerbund tux, by the 4th week, the cummerbund needs to be from your knees to your nipples.
You know why I don't use a cummerbund? Because all the particles from the deep fried food that I'm eating end up in it. So that's kind of a problem. I like the way you think, though. People go, "Oh my gosh, he must be losing weight. That looks so big on you." Anyway, we'll probably just edit that part out if you don't mind. I was kind of doing some mid-show therapy that I hope ends up on the cutting room floor, but we'll see how that goes. But as you know, I don't listen to the podcast, and this is why, Andy, because I want to leave here. Usually at the end, you say something that makes me laugh like you're a clown, and then I leave feeling a little better about myself. But if I go back and review this show, I might be second-guessing everything. Let's go ahead. This is the Buddha to You episode, so we obviously talked a little Halloween. I stumbled across this little nugget. This is out of the Seattle Times. Of course, I'm based here in Seattle. Now, if you live in Seattle, you're probably either a Washington Husky fan or a Washington State Cougar fan on the other side of the state. The one team you don't like is the Oregon Ducks. So this little nugget came in the Seattle Times this past week. Coach asks Ducks fans to stop booing at home. When the 7th-ranked Oregon Ducks returned to their stadium on Saturday to play Colorado, Coach Mario Cristobal has one request: no more booing. Apparently their quarterback was really sucking, and people started booing him and all of this. Now, I get that they're young athletes, but they're on the verge of going professional, and you don't really want to sit there and shame people. But booing is kind of sports, and booing is real life. If you're not performing, then there are consequences. So, to me, it just seems like we're going so soft on people. As a guy who's grown up coaching soccer, I've spoken about this on the air many, many times. This whole thing where you're kicking another team's ass, so you start pulling players and you start making it a bad. You can't have your good players play anymore because you're already up 6-0. So the good players only get to play a little bit. I just think that's horrible, because in real life, and like Andy, let's use you as an example. So let's say you write some music, and you're putting on a concert, you're doing a show, and nobody shows up because the band is horrible. let's say people don't show up, and that means that you have to. I'm sorry. So nobody shows up, and it's on you to go ahead and maybe write some better music.
Well, let's talk about.
Hang on. I need to do something that's editable, and hopefully Josh will fix this. But
oh no,
let's say let's say you're writing music, and no one showed up to the show. They're like, this band sucks. Maybe you need to go get a new drummer. Maybe you need a new frontman. Maybe you need a better song. And you got to go. That's the real world. It's not like people. Well, you know what? They're a terrible band, but people need to show up for them. That's not how life works.
No, so let me tell you a real life story about that. We went and played the naval base in north of Chicago, the Great Lakes Naval Base, and we went and we did 2 shows. The first show was for all these naval cadets that had been gone for 9 weeks, and this was like before they graduated, and they brought them in, and they sat there still, like totally still, did not move, and we played. And it was weird, but then when we got done, they were elated because they had to stay there because they were like basically still in boot camp. But they came up and they were so excited; they thought it was the greatest thing. And I was like, "Wow, that's great! Now let's go play the club that's on base." So I don't know how the communication didn't get. We were like, "Oh man, this is great! We just played a good show. People are going to come out, whatever." No, it's a dance club. And the last thing they wanted was a live band. And we were playing, and people were booing. Booing.
Ouch.
Like, boo, go home, get out of here. And one dude came right up to me as I'm singing a song and he was probably 2 feet from me, and just sat there and did this, stuck his fingers out like this, just flipping me off with both hands. Until we stopped playing, we literally, like, after like 3 songs, we were like, we're getting the fuck out of here. Like, this is ridiculous. So I get it. I get the they don't want you there, and they let you know. Well, what are you gonna do? Leave. But on a sports field, you can't do that. Now, I think there's a couple of things here. I think if you're booing a bad call or something that happened that was inappropriate, then, like, somebody did a cheap shot or whatever, that's fine. But if you're booing, just a team because they're coming out and you don't like them, I think that's a problem. I think that's a little bit of a problem. I do.
So again, I think you're soft. Now, Josh, you're a sports fan. You get how the real world works. I mean, look at your Cleveland Browns. We're all rooting for them, but they're completely underperforming. Do you boo the team? Do you let it go? Do you let them know you're dissatisfied? There was so much promise going into this year. Do you boo them, or do you just say, "Hey, it's our team. Yay! We've been through this many, many times, and they're still disappointing us. Yay!" You boo them, right?
So I legit think there's a difference between collegiate, like any amateur sport, and professional sport. I really
But aren't they
do.
getting paid now? They're getting paid now.
Well, some guys can sign NIL NIL deals, but that doesn't mean everybody's getting paid. But I guess I think that even if you were getting paid, like even if these kids were at the point where they're all are collecting a salary, like I'm not against booing a big time college team. Like Oregon's a big time D1 Power 5 team. They're ranked nationally. They beat Ohio State. They've got a shot at the playoffs. Like this is a big time team. I don't have any problem booing them when it's necessary or when something happens or when you're reacting to a play or whatever. But when people overdo it and they get really loud and really cruel and they're talking shit and they're sending death threat tweets and they're doing, because that's all the same stuff that comes with booing. That bothers me, not so much because I'm like, oh, those people or those kids or those players shouldn't have to deal with it, because like shit happens, right? If those dudes are going to go play in the pros, they're going to deal with it in the pros. But whatever level it is, it bothers me not so much that the players shouldn't deal with it, but like, dude, as the person doing it, grow the F up, man. Like, what the hell? Like, if you're
brother.
so angry and so mad at that team and you're going there and you are gonna mother F that quarterback up and down and be so mad at him, don't go. What the hell are you wasting your time for? Like, stay home, watch the game on TV. When you go get that pissed off, like, I mean, I don't know, switch the channel. Like, go watch Pornhub or something. Like, do something better with your time. Like, what are you doing?
Do you remember that Peyton Manning commercial? I can't remember what it was for because he's on every commercial. But the one where he was showing up to people's work and booing them. The way, because obviously they get booed. I can't remember what that was for, but it was so good. It was absolutely so good. But it would be funny in real life. You know, if you're over here doing your job and people come in and go, wow, you blew that presentation. You suck, man. You suck. Could you imagine people showing up and doing that at your job?
No, well, first of all, I get that from some. There are some people in our meetings that do give me the business a little bit. So maybe that's not the best reference there. But you know what I would say is, like you mentioned, the Cleveland Browns and the expectations and all that stuff. Like, first of all, I'm not a big go-to-games guy anymore, which I know seems totally weird, but I love watching all that stuff on TV. But even if I were, Baker Mayfield, who has been playing questionably a little bit, and then there's the Odell stuff and drops and all those things, like, it makes me mad, and watching it, I get kind of pissed off. But, like, what? Like, he didn't do it on purpose. Like, none of those guys are. Baker Mayfield's playing for a contract. He didn't sign an extension this offseason, and he's bet on himself. He needs to go play great. So when he makes a mistake, I boo, like, the moment. Like, that play sucked. Boo, whatever. And then I'm done, because what am I going to do? Make him feel worse?
So let's expand it beyond like team sports. What about individual sports, like booing at a golf tournament or booing at a bowling match or tennis? Is there a difference there than if it's at a big stadium in an arena?
One of my things on my bucket list was to go to the Phoenix Open, which is known as the Waste Management Open in Phoenix, Arizona, technically Scottsdale.
Been there.
And they have the 16th hole there. And if you know anything about golf, that's the stadium hole. It's a par 3. Pretty short little par 3. It's like 115-ish yards, something like that. And what they do is if you don't hit one really, really close, they will boo you. You could hit a good shot onto the green, maybe miss the putt, tap in for a par. They're booing. But it's lighthearted and fun. It's not like a screw you boo. It's kind of funny. The golfers know it's coming, and they're just expecting it. It's kind of a fun thing for them. But yeah, like when I see booing, like the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, and one team, if like the Europeans are visiting us, I hate that we boo these golfers, because to me it's like, because these are all great golfers and we're all fans of them. I get the competition, you can really cheer, but I think there's been a lot of disrespectful moments, and maybe that's different because it's golf. I expect people to be a little classier, but some of these other sports, when you start talking football and hockey, I mean it's aggressive, and so the fans are drinking and it's aggressive, and golf really isn't like that. It's not like Tiger Woods is going after Phil Mickelson with a 9-iron, trying to smack him in the forehead or something.
Yeah, like I was saying, football, hockey, those aggressive sports, the fans drinking, everything's crazy, everything's real aggressive. I'm with it. Like, a thing happens and you have an emotion and you boo or you give a Bronx cheer or whatever it is. But, like, at some point, man, you just got to chill out. Like, no matter how loud I boo or what weird shit I talk to somebody who just failed on the biggest stage of their life in some huge professional game at which they're trying to make millions of dollars, like, I still have to go home and try to be a good dad and then go to work and try to be a good boss and then come home and try to be a good husband. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't do me any good. Like, I just don't, as the person doing it, I just think it's stupid.
I agree.
All right. So I'm with you in spirit. I mean, I don't personally boo at games. I think it's disrespectful unless there's a bad call or we're caught up in the playoffs. And, you know, back when I'd go to Sonics games and Charles Barkley would come into town, I mean, Charles Barkley wants you to boo. You know what I mean? He wants that. He's motivated by that.
I want to break in real quick and let you continue on with finishing this show because I feel like you're about to take us home. But one thing that you mentioned is booing a bad call. And let me be perfectly clear to everyone listening. Fuck those refs.
A little aggressive there to wrap things up. I feel like there was a little bit of commonality here that we were kind of, you know, I was like, you know, hey, grow a pair. People boo. It's sports. And I'm over here, you kind of changed my mind going, you know what? Yeah, let's have some more there's enough negative stuff going on. And then you go ahead and you F-bomb us out. But maybe we'll edit that or bleep it or, you know, the kids, you know. But there you go. So it's that time in the program. Time to name our MVP. I think it's going to be kind of a tough one today because we know who it's not. I mean, clearly Andy came in soft, and he even called himself out for being soft, and he drove home how soft he really is. And, you know, he actually admitted you weren't Mrs. Doubtfire, you were Princess Leia. Which, again, a little awkward and might cause some issues moving forward with the kids who still have some decisions to make. Josh, what do you think?
But Princess Leia was 4 years ago. Andy, I feel like before we vote for MVP, I need to know what you went for this last Halloween. What did you dress up as?
I dressed up as a dad.
Oh, how lame.
Soft. It was soft. It was soft. Alan's the guy calling me soft. The guy with one kid calling the guy with 4 kids.
No.
Go figure.
Look, you definitely.
I was smart enough to go ahead and perfect one, and, you know, 1 for 1. That's batting 1,000.
Andy, there's no doubt that you were hard more often than Alan. You've got more kids. But I will
Are we really
say,
going to say that? Are you going to somehow do what you did last week and jack me around to the point where somehow that's going to make Andy, because he's been able to produce children, all of a sudden he's outperformed you because you only got 2 and I have 1. So the ranking is Andy's like fired 4 shots effectively, and you only have 2, and I'm over here with 1. And really, we're going to go down that path for MVP? I mean,
no,
really?
Absolutely not. Andy's fertility success rate has nothing to do with MVP in this episode, but because dressing up like a dad for Halloween is the lamest bullshit I've ever heard in my life.
I'm gonna give him a chance to dig out of this a little bit because I've done the dad thing before. I've actually, when I was in Cleveland, I mean, the weather really does start to turn right around. I mean, it almost times out. It's always a dark and stormy night right when Halloween hits, in Cleveland, and I've come up with some creative. One year I went as a box of milk, and everyone thought that was lame. It actually enabled me to carry around a bottle of bourbon through the neighborhood, and nobody could see where my arm was. And so I could actually pour cocktails inside the box while I'm walking, and nobody saw that.
They were hoping you were holding a bottle of bourbon.
That's what they were hoping. And so I'm kind of curious, as you just kind of daddleized the whole thing. I mean, did you do anything meaningful? Did you help out the neighbor dads? Because I was always kind of corralling the neighbor dads together and creating a little more of, just like the moms go to the bus stop and they're serving up wine in their little plastic cups or coffee cups, and they're having margaritas on the first day of school. So the dads, I'm doing the dad side of this, and it sounds like you're just over here being soft.
Dude, Andy, you need to answer that question in like 2 seconds, but I totally got one of my fellow dads in trouble because I did I did the cool guy thing, right? My boy came down, our girls were in the same grade, they were trick-or-treating, and I was like, hey, and I handed him Columbus Brewing Company IPA. I'm like, hey, happy Halloween, trick or treat, here's a beer, right? And he's standing there with his wife and his 2 kids. And I was like, yeah, I'm the cool guy. And then he opened it standing in my driveway and totally got the side eye from every female on the block, I feel like, at the same time. I was like, dude, what are you doing?
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the time you flew out to Seattle. And I was the guy who I thought I was giving you high-end bourbon and gave you car service and made sure you ate like a rock star. And then next thing you know, I'm the problem. And now your bride doesn't even talk to me.
Dude, I ate a lot.
Yeah. So, again, I think that's kind of the fact that you localized the beer selection for the guy, I think you get some honorable mentions. And since the story technically ended up on the podcast, I think that's going to move you ahead of Andy for the MVP. I guess over on my end, I mean, I named the episode.
You did.
I
you
brought
did.
the content that drove the naming of it. I thought that I maintained my microphone sounds better than Andy's.
That's true. Look, I'm not going to vote for myself here. I think that Alan did a good job actually having a topic. So like the booing thing, well, that may have steered us a little bit more sportsy than people are used to. It was actually like a topic and a thing we talked about. And then he asked us both about Halloween. Alan, you know what? Damn it, I'm calling it. Alan was a radio guy. He actually asked us questions and drove the show this week, not like all the other weeks where it's just kind of all willy-nilly. So I'm totally going to say...
where he's just rambling on about himself.
This is it. This is, I think Alan gets, on a scale of 1 to 10, right? I'm going to give Alan a 9 out of 10. Andy gets a 1 out of 10. So you get the last tenth of the scoring here for the story about the naval base. Because
it's very soft scoring.
I think that's I think the naval base story is funny, though. I enjoy you getting flipped off by Marines.
Sure. And so again, Andy, for sucking, is actually disrespecting people who have fought for our freedoms, and because he did such a horrible...
Disrespected them by playing music?
Exactly. And
your music is so disrespectful to the country and unpatriotic.
And what's not showing up on the scorecard, if you both were on Instagram, I know Andy doesn't know how it works, but you might notice in real time, I'm posting the gnome, and I've promoted you guys, and I've actually, while maintaining a strong presence on the podcast, I've also been keeping us alive on social media during the taping of this podcast. So, I'm just giving back. And, a real MVP doesn't vote for himself, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for Josh, and I will accept Josh's recommendation because I'm a good teammate. And I'm sorry, Josh, who was the MVP?
Alan Fee and Andy's naval base, but I'm going to go with Alan Fee first. Yeah.
I'm not going to vote, and I'm just going to support my teammate Josh. And if Josh says that he's going to name the MVP and Andy's only got 1 point, I will accept that.
Holtgreave?
Wait,
Holtgreave,
I don't get a vote?
Yeah, you get a vote.
I get a vote?
Oh, yeah.
I get a freaking vote.
Oh, yeah.
Do I not get a vote?
Yeah, I mean, it's a soft vote, but it's a vote.
Is that okay? I mean, you guys are having this whole podcast, and I'm just sort of, hey, Andy, you got to answer that question, and then never come back to
know
that
what you
question.
feel? This feels kind of like...
you wanted to know if it was Betty Rubble. Never answered that question.
No shit, answer that question.
You wanted to know if I was drinking. Never answered that question. So the MVP, I think, for this show, because I'm now the tiebreaker. Initially I was thinking, and I kept missing the shot. If I could have captured the shot. Josh had some great beer drinking shots tonight. He was swaying back and forth at a couple of points. He had a couple of really great phallic, shots that I wish I could have captured in the moment. I didn't because I was slow on the uptake, so I definitely don't get the MVP for that. But I was going to give it to Josh. But I got to say, honestly, Alan, it was a good topic. It was very, it tied together. It was timely. It was relevant. We brought Halloween in. You brought in a timely topic that was just in the Seattle Times. Yeah, I felt like you really did a good job asking questions. So my vote is going to be for Alan. That's legit.
And I appreciate that. And it's worth noting, and again, if you followed us on IG, which were 3 guys, 3 cities on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you'll see that I actually did capture Josh drinking his beer and got a good close-up and a video So I'm about to hit send on that right now, and that will show up right over here. So, yeah, I kind of beat you to that. But if you follow us on IG, you'll see some of the fine marketing I did while trying to maintain hosting this. And again, I understand. I mean, there's some broadcast history, and I have a lot more experience in this area. But again, it is what it is. So that's a wrap for us. Appreciate you listening as always. You can find us, as you apparently have, wherever you get your podcasts and whatever we're calling this. We already plugged everything else. We already named an MVP. Any final words?
You guys ever pee so long that halfway through you get mad at yourself that you didn't start a timer when you started because you figured this one had to be a world record?
Yes!
I think let's just end right there. That can be next week's episode. Hopefully we edit that part, but something tells me we won't. Until next time, be at peace.
The chicks are on the walls. I'm